I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.
Well, all right, Miami, Fury fam, the Miami Dolphins win. It's another victory Sunday. I have no voice from yelling at a college game yesterday and also screaming at my TV today. Why couldn't we make it easy is the theme of the day, but nonetheless, we made it out alive with a win. Interestingly, the New York Jets have beaten the Buffalo Bills today. So the beloved Bills of the media and everything else, and I'm in no way, downplaying how good the Bills are. It's obvious that the Bills are a very good team that need to be reckoned with. But that's 2 road division losses for the Buffalo Bills. And so it's an interesting thing as a Miami Dolphins fan because you're happy we gained a game on the Bills. We're chasing them for the division. But watch out for the Jets. The Jets beat us. They hold the tiebreaker. The Jets keep pace with us. And the Jets gained a game on the Bills for the division. So this is kind of fun but kind of scary where we're back in this AFC East actually being good again type thing. And it's a fun time if you're in the eastern part of the United States and you're in one of these areas because a lot of trash talk, a lot of fun, a lot of things going on. Same with the NFC East. So it's a crazy time. It's a fun season. But let's dig into this game, guys. This game came very close. This game came dangerously close to being a loss. And I'll get it out of the way really quick because people are already angry that I even mention it. I'll get it out of the way. Tua missed the throw to Waddle at the end of that game, which could have sealed it. It was a little short. And it allowed the defender to get his arm in. Now don't go crazy because that's the last I'm going to say about it. Tua Tagovailoa kept us in that game. Tua Tagovailoa put us on his back. Okay? The defense was terrible. I think the head coaching, Mike McDaniel, was very, very questionable. Jason Sanders once again misses a pivotal field goal, and this was a short one. But let's get into a little bit. Tua Tagovailoa, 21 of 30 for 302 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The man played another brilliant game. And you could tell when the momentum was starting to shift towards the end that Chicago was getting a little more pressure on him, playing the receivers a little tighter. Nonetheless, it didn't matter. Tua didn't commit any bad mistakes. He marched the team down the field, even on the last 2 drives where we didn't score, and even the previous drive before the half where we missed the field goal, Tua did his job. Tua marched us down the field and kind of put the team on his back. I think Mike McDaniel, man, he's a young coach. He's learning his play calling. And obviously, no one's disputing Mike McDaniel's prowess as an offensive coordinator. Okay? As an offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel is stellar. He's brilliant. His play designs, his motion pre-snap designs, everything that he's done, his hiring of coaches even to develop these players has been nothing short of very, very good. And as a head coach, his hiring of coaches goes into that. But as an offensive coordinator, he could have hired his offensive staff too. So, and that's kind of what he's been doing. So as an offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel has been absolutely brilliant. As a head coach, I'm not saying he can't be a great head coach or anything, but at this point, he's got to still learn, okay? Because just because Jason Sanders missed the field goal doesn't mean you never kick a field goal the rest of the game. I understand the first time because it would have been like a 50-plus yard field goal into the wind in Chicago. Go for it, fine. Go for it. Don't love the play call, but go for it. The second time, I thought we could have kicked the field goal there. It would have put Chicago in a much more difficult position at the end of the game. They're going to have to drive the length of the field. But again, we call a similar play, and then on that play, Smythe isn't looking for the ball, and I don't know why that was. Tua threw it a little short, but I mean, if Smythe was looking for that ball, he would have been able to adjust. Tua throw it beyond the sticks and he found his outlet and threw it beyond the sticks. Smythe wasn't paying attention. I don't know what was going on. It looked like the same play Gesicki ran, the same route. Now, I know both times it wasn't the first read. It didn't look like the first read. But whatever that play was, it wasn't working down there. And I don't know about going for it on fourth down when you could kick a field goal that late in the game. I understand there's different things in your head that you go to. But when you couple that with the end of the half, which was a cluster F. I won't say the F word, but it was a cluster, man. McDaniel's just rumbling and fumbling and bumbling. We had to use timeouts. We got, because we got the penalty for, 12 men in the huddle. I understand initially on that drive at the end of the half. I understand, eating the clock a little bit and not being in a rush to preserve time, because if you don't convert, you don't want to give it back to Chicago, would give them a chance to go down and score before the half. But once it gets down to 40-plus seconds, you want to start conserving the clock, especially when you're moving the ball and you're on the plus side of the field. The fact that we continued to let it tick, 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 as Berman would say, I didn't love that, to be honest with you. I didn't love that. So there were some things to be desired from McDaniel for sure. I mean, a lot of questionable decisions. We left some points on the board because of that. And then not only, the choice to go for it on fourth, but the play selection, I wasn't a huge fan of when he was down there. Now, can we nitpick? Yeah, we can nitpick. And look, the fact is we're 6-3. Tua is playing the best ball that we've seen so far. Everything's clicking. Waddle and Hill are setting records, breaking records. Jalen Waddle, 5 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, man, 7 receptions for 143 yards and a touchdown. 143 every game. This guy is just lighting it up. But look, what was the real factor, that kind of made this game like a white knuckle? And it's funny because I told you guys the other day. I told you the other day that, there was some media personalities out there. There were some media personalities who said, I'd rather build my team around Justin Fields than Tua. And I thought it was disrespectful. And you go out today, and now Fields put on a show. And look, credit to the Chicago Bears, the team. Credit to the Chicago fan base. Credit to Justin Fields. These guys just went through a trade deadline where they lose key defensive personnel. They get a key offensive weapon that, had a couple catches, but nothing to write home about. And I could even tell you what he had. All the way down on the list, Claypool had 2 receptions for only 13 yards. So they get Claypool. I think he'll be a bigger part of their offense going forward. I'm not saying that Chicago's trajectory is not promising with a player like Justin Fields. But when you watch him, he's going to hurt you with his legs. And it's not that he can't throw. He can make certain throws, but that's not the bread and butter of what hurt us today. That's not the bread and butter of what he's going to do. He's going to run the ball. And speaking of that, and anyway, to give props to Chicago, the fans showed up. They were loud. The momentum stayed the entire game. The team played hard. They didn't want to hear it. And credit to them and their staff. They called the game that was working for them. You can't fault them. But from a Miami Dolphins standpoint, okay, you just trade for this big piece in Chubb. And I understand he's a pass rusher. And I also understand he hasn't had a lot of time to practice. But all that being considered, the Bears essentially, now they're a good running team, okay? They're going to run the ball. It's not like they're not going to run the ball. Montgomery had 14 carries for 36 yards. Herbert had 7 for 23, though. So they're not out here lighting you up from all angles with, inside, outside zone running back runs that are just wearing you down, falling forward every time. They wore you out with the quarterback. Justin Fields ran 15 times for 178 yards. 178 yards. Credit to him. He's a very talented player. He's a very talented runner. Would I build my team around Fields instead of Tua? Never. Never. That's going to get old. The running thing is going to get old. He's not the kind of guy like Tua who can spread the ball over the place. That's a matter of philosophy. You look at, Jackson in Baltimore, and they do well. And the Bears and Feilds are going to be fine. I'm not dissing them or anything. That's just my opinion. But as a defensive coordinator and defensive personnel, you've got to find a way to stop really what is essentially their one weapon. The one thing that beat you up the whole first half also beat you up the second half. That's a concern. You should be able to make halftime adjustments to slow somebody down. He must have run the same, whether it's an option play, like where he puts it in the running back's stomach and pulls it out and runs off tackle. He must have ran that, 5 times for a great amount of yardage. And we had no answer. And it wasn't all on Boyer. Boyer deserves some of the blame because he's obviously not calling something to stop it. But a lot of times guys were there at the point of attack and just failed to make the tackle. And I understand that's player against player. Justin Fields is a very talented player. But you gotta at some point execute. The entire game, we were lucky to stop him ever. And Tua had to put us on his back and carry us up and down the field. And you're not going to win games like that long term. That's for sure. So that's really got to be cleaned up. Now, Chubb, I thought he looked pretty good. This wasn't his type of game, right? This is a shootout game. And this is a game where, the guy you're rushing takes off and runs. And his best asset is running right now. So you're not going to have a guy drop back in a pocket that you can pass rush. Chubb almost got there a couple times. Towards the end of the game, he got there, and Fields snuck out of it for a big gain. But interestingly, just like I said, Tua missed the throw at the end. It's interesting because Tua carried the team the whole way. Misses one throw at the end, okay. And then, but the defense, they were terrible all game. And then at the end, the drive right before we got the ball back. Melvin Ingram with a great sack, a sack that really set them behind the chains, really threw them off. And then Riley working hard to chase Fields, throw him out of bounds for a lot. Like, at the end of the game, those plays on defense also made a big difference. I mean, we were in a position where we had a 3-point lead. We had the ball more than once with an opportunity to go up by an insurmountable lead. We failed to do it on offense, but the defense stepped up when was necessary, stopped them twice to give us the victory. Now, there's going to be a lot of talk about that 3rd down and 10 play when the commentators were saying it looked like, our guy had grabbed him around the waist, whatever. That's a bang-bang play. It didn't look like he was pulling him down. It looked like he had his hands there, which is kind of interesting because on the play where X had the interception and there was an offsides call, I thought X had his hands on the guy's hips just to kind of guide him. He didn't pull him or change his trajectory in any way, and the ball arrived much later when X caught it, but whatever. So these kind of plays, whether it's a bad call, a good call, they go both ways in every game. It's hard to really, it's hard to make a big argument out of it, especially because they went both ways. I mean, you could have had a game-sealing interception. It was a ticky-tacky touch that they called to offset the Bears penalty, which negated an interception, which would have sealed the game. But then on the other side, you don't call the same ticky-tacky thing on Miami when it's, a pivotal throw. That's the way the NFL goes, and that's how it is. Just some notes. Jeff Wilson, thought he was a great addition. I think, if we're going to be able to ride Wilson with Mostert as more of the change of pace, speedy guy in that backfield, and Wilson's going to be able to be a consistent carrier the way Chase Edmonds was not, and also if Wilson's going to be able to catch some balls out of the backfield and then get downhill very fast, watch out, because if Tua has a ground game that's formidable, and he ran nine carries for 51 yards for Wilson, 5.7 yards per carry average. Not bad at all. Mostert, 9 carries for 26 yards, only a 2.9 for carry average, but he had the touchdown. Mostert's a good back. I'm not in any way taking anything away from him, but Wilson's more of the workout horse. You don't want to put Mostert, you don't want to give Mostert too many carries and take a toll on his body. It's just not the type of player he is. It's not what he's best suited for. It's not the best way for us to utilize him. So you get Wilson. I thought Wilson was underrated addition. We're talking about Chubb, and Chubb's a great addition, and we'll see it more, I think, with different offensive systems. But Wilson, great addition. I mean, he had a lot of nice runs. This helped sustain drives, helped to keep the defense off balance. I thought it was an excellent addition by Chris Greer. He deserves his props. Look, at the end of the day, do I sound like I'm being critical? Yeah, because at the end of the day, there was a lot to be desired on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, it's more about the play calling and the decision-making of the coaching staff in certain drives. The offense themselves, especially Tua, played great. I mean, I'm really sitting here thinking, like, am I about to go back to wood-paneled walls and a old, like, little digital, non-cable TV, like, in my parents' bedroom in 1994? Because I feel like I'm watching, like, Vikings, Dolphins, 94 in November, or was it October? I don't remember, with Warren Moon and Dan Marino going back and forth, like 40-something to 38, whatever that score was, and the defenses are just not present, and it's just, this quarterback on Miami just slinging it down the field, up and down, up and down. That's what it reminds me of. Tua is just playing some great football. Tua is playing some great football, and it's a lot of fun to watch. If we can get the defense to kind of keep pace, and I know, we're down to, like, our practice squad corners in some instances. I get it. But we got to figure something out. This wasn't about the corners. This was about figuring out a way to stop the ground game of a dual-threat quarterback. This wasn't on the corners. So figure it out. And I have faith in Boyer, but he's got to figure this stuff out. Now, look, all that being said, guys, this was a road stretch against the NFC North teams. You played Detroit on the road, then you go and you play Chicago on the road. These are not teams we see all the time. They have a different way of playing. It's not like your own divisional games when you know the teams. It's on the road. It's 2 in a row. It's tough. Now we get to go home. We get to play Cleveland, and then we got a bye, which is much needed. Let's pray we get a little bit of more healthy coming out of that bye. We've already gotten a little healthy, but let's get a little more healthy coming out of that bye. Let's make a run. Now, it's important. And by the way, excellent to see a special teams huge play. Despite the field goal miss, that blocked punt and the scoop and score is huge. I mean, that's a game-changing play. If you were watching the game prior to that, it was really Chicago scores, Miami scores. Chicago scores, Miami scores. And the reason we got a leg up in the game that essentially kept us in the lead the entire rest of the game was because of that punt block and that scoop and score. So that's huge, and I want to give props to those players too. They're kind of the unsung heroes. A lot gets lost in the shuffle with, the defense struggling, Tua playing so well. You start to think, who's talking about this special teams play, which was excellent. And so it's important that we talk about that play, which was an excellent play. So look, in any event, great to have a victory Sunday. I always welcome a victory Sunday. You should all welcome a victory Sunday. We can go chill, watch the post games, watch the other games. This AFC East, man, this AFC East is no joke right now because, even you look at the Pats. The Pats are not good. Pats are the fourth place team, decidedly, but they're not like a slouch, well below 500 team. And then you got the Jets with that secondary. Now, their quarterback is not playing great. He's not putting up, buzzing stats or anything, but that secondary, that team they've put together, their toughness, their resiliency, you got to watch out for the New York Jets, man. You got to watch out for the New York Jets. And the Buffalo Bills, just because they lost to, their only 2 losses are to division rivals on the road, they're still a formidable adversary. And guess what? The Jets got to go to Orchard Park in December, and the Dolphins have to go to Orchard Park in December. So don't expect the Bills to stay down long. But strap in. And, as far as this, I don't think it was fair. The last thing I'll kind of say is I don't think it was fair that the media, after this blockbuster trade earlier in the week, that the media wanted to make this mountain out of a molehill. Like, yes, we traded for Bradley Chubb. Yes, we added Wilson. Yes, we are trying to make moves to better position ourselves for the future. Again, it's not rocket science, guys. If you have a if you have a first-round draft pick, and you can trade that first-round draft pick for a first-round caliber player who's already proven in the league, you do it 100% of the time. Like, your first-round pick is only going to be hoping that you can get a player like Bradley Chubb. So if you can get him, especially with a late-round pick, you do it. That doesn't necessarily mean that we were going all in. They keep comparing us to the LA Rams, selling our future, mortgaging it all, going all in for this year. And then they asked Tua the question. He says, we're always thinking we can be formidable for the Super Bowl. And then everybody's sitting around talking, well, they're going all in. This is a Super Bowl team. Well, guys, I'm not predicting the Super Bowl for this team. I'd be happy if we did. We have the potential to contend in the playoffs, but we better shape up on defense and in field goal kicking and some other things and head coach decision making if we want to actually be formidable, actually have a real chance to do it. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of good teams we have to go up against. But here's the thing. It wasn't fair that they put all that expectation on Miami this week. Like we're a Super Bowl bound team. We put all our chips in. We're going all in. No, we're not. Bradley Chubb's a young player. All these guys are young players. Some of them are a couple of years out for their contracts. Now, Tua, we're going to have to pay him. We're going to have to pay Wilkins. We're going to have to pay a couple other guys. Quite frankly, I'd be content shedding some of the defensive contracts after this season and paying Mike Gesicki. Because if he's not going to command a huge salary, then he's more of a weapon than, say, Baker. So, I mean, we can do some things here to cut some fat off that defense. That was a Flores defense, which I'm not knocking anybody, but if Byron Jones is not going to come back, that's a salary. You know, X is a great player, and I'm in no way knocking X or no way saying I don't want him on the team. He almost made another pivotal turnover this week, and most of the time they stay away from throwing to him. He's going to give up a couple passes here and there. His groin is still he's still nursing it. But whoever you can, if you can get some young players on defense, get rid of some of the contracts and sign a guy like Gesicki or whatever, and then sign a guy like Tua, sign Wilkins, you know, you could still we got a couple year window here. This idea that we mortgaged our whole future and we're going all in right now is nonsense. And the reason I bring that up is because, yes, today we definitely didn't look like a Super Bowl contender the way we played our defense. Plain and simple. And that's not to take anything away from Justin Fields. The kid's a brilliant young athlete. But we didn't look formidable in terms of Super Bowl caliber today. But that's okay. A, we have time to clean it up. B, it's a long road, and you never know what's going to happen. And C, though, forget the media narrative that we're going all in, giving it all up. We have a couple of years. This is still a young team in some ways meshing together. And we have a lot to be hopeful for, a lot to look forward to, and a lot to celebrate on this Victory Sunday because our quarterback is an absolute beast of a player. An absolute beast, and our wideouts are beasts. And now we added a nice running back. We added a pass rusher. You know, and don't forget about Ingram. Don't forget about Phillips. I mean, these guys still had impact plays. There was a play where Phillips ran in, beautiful little move. Beautiful little move on the lineman, ran in and just went like this to Feilds, and Feilds chucked it up, and it was an incompletion on another pivotal play. So don't sleep on the guys we have, but if I got to leave anything, Sanders, you got to clean it up or we got to move on. He was brilliant 2 years ago. I don't know what happened. McDaniel, you got to start learning on some of this stuff. You know, he will. He's young head coach. Better time management. Less penalties today, which was good. But some of the things you got to clean up, McDaniel. You know, and then the defense. You got to get it figured out. If somebody comes at you with something you're not ready for, you got to make an adjustment on the fly. And to Boyer's credit, he's made adjustments on the fly in the second half most times this year. I don't think we've allowed points a lot of second halves this year, but today wasn't one of them. So let's not make it a trend. Let's get back to Miami. Let's take care of business, which, again, what I tell you, too. People are predicting blowouts here and blowouts there, and I'm telling you, you don't predict blowouts in the NFL, and you don't take anything for granted. I'm not taking any games for granted, and nor should you. Nor should any other team or any other fan base. That's just the fact of it. If you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment, don't expect blowouts. So let's take care of business next week. It's not a given. Nothing's a given. Let's get healthy in the bye. Let's resort, and let's go back out. Continue to take care of business before we get in this really tough December stretch of the schedule. But, guys, I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're, in the states that have fall back for daylight savings, hope you fell back. You got some rest. You're going to get some rest tonight. Enjoy the Sunday. Celebrate. Let's watch the other games. AFC East is shaping up to be really, really fun this year. Let's hope we come out on top. And remember, with the Jets right there, they're also fighting us for a wild card spot. So things get really, really interesting down the stretch here. Let's celebrate the win. Let's celebrate Tua just having another brilliant game. Let's hope these things get fixed. Congrats to the Bears for playing a tough game and keeping their heads in the game. I think they got a bright future. overall, just a wild Sunday. I could have done without some of the back and forth craziness. I almost broke my remote. I had some stuff going on. But I will see everybody Wednesday at 7 p.m. for LG Shaking the Panel, a live show where we have panel members on. You can come on and talk. I'm looking forward to it. And if you haven't done so, if you've watched this video, if you've come this far, and even if whether this is the first time watching me, it's the fifth time watching me, the 100th time watching me, whether you're a Bears fan, you're a Jets fan, you're a Dolphins fan, do me a favor, do the football world a favor, dialogue a favor. Just scroll right below me, hit the subscribe button. Takes not even a second to hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. I welcome you to the Fury Fam. We have great conversations here. All fans, all people are welcome. I try to engage as much as I can. I love speaking to people. I love hanging out with people in this space. It's an awesome space. NFL's fun. Sundays are fun. Smash the subscribe button. It means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. And also like this video. Until then, I'll see you guys Wednesday, and Larry K's out.
I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.